companies like Facebook and Google are bigger than ever. In fact, the number of Facebook users now exceeds the populations of China, the United States, and Brazil combined. Google oversees 90% of all online searches. Between those two companies, they control roughly 2/3 of all advertising online. My next guest says more has to be done to rein these companies in. She has an op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle. Consumers, Congress, stand up to tech giants, saying this: when a small cadre of companies begins to operate as retailers, news aggregators, advertising platforms, and information keepers, they don't just rise to the top of the marketplace. They become the marketplace, walling off competition in a way that threatens the very idea of consumer choice. Joining me now, Consumer Reports President and CEO Marta Tellado. Good to see you.
Great to be here,
Marta, this morning. What do you mean by this op-ed? What should consumers do? What should Congress do?
Well, think about it. Our founders were great believers in the free market and competition. But when you think about free market, you also need free choice. How do consumers have free choice when they don't have knowledge or transparency about what's in the marketplace? So we need transparency. We need accountability. We also need some changes. The physics of this new reality are very different. So we don't really have the rules and regulations in place to even think and contemplate how to hold these companies accountable.
When you say rules and regulations, though, Steve's neck turns bright red.
Yeah.
But, Steve, what do you have to say to Marta's editorial?
Well, in terms of regulations, I think you're going to get national regulations, if only because states are starting to do crazy things. You don't want a balkanized market, which would hurt everybody. So I think as a preemption, you will get something national. But in terms of getting information out there, it's as open as it's ever been before. What I want to ask you is, we said the same thing about IBM, said the same thing about Microsoft, said the same about Walmart, Amazon. Now we say about Amazon. Aren't there things gurgling out there that are going to upend these people, like 5G or new technologies that are going to undo them like they've always done before?
Here's the difference. I think it's yes, we have seen behavior like this before. We haven't quite seen so few companies like big tech that are controlling so much. As I said in the op-ed, they're not just tech companies. They are ad platforms. They are retailers. They are controlling our experience. So the dynamic, it's not just what we've seen before. The physics of this are entirely different. It's too few of them and not enough transparency for consumers to make decisions.
Do you think blockchain technology, have you looked at that as a way of getting our privacy back?
People are talking about blockchain technology, Bitcoin. Those things are thought about, talked about. They're not a reality for everyday consumers.
What about personal choice, though, Robert? I know you want to get in here. But again, if consumers just turn their backs on some of these companies in a way, it's different if you talk about the way that ads are served online. That's tougher. But in terms of Facebook, people could just stop using the platform and really pull back. And maybe that would give rise to alternatives who would be with companies that would be more transparent. But that just seems like a really long road ahead.
I think you're seeing that already, and particularly with young audiences turning away from Facebook. But the choices are not there, and the information they need, these companies are not being transparent about the information they're using. Consumers are really being victimized by these incredible technologies that are delighting us, but they're also limiting our choice, and in terms of pricing, in terms of the whole experience that we have in our daily lives.
So, Marta, you know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I love what you wrote. But we applaud the shared services economy because it makes it, one, more efficient for us all. Two, actually pricing's gone down, not up, in the shared services economy. So in a consumer-driven country like ours, which is 73% consumer-driven, to the head of consumer, your company, that's a good thing.
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, I agree with you on the regulation side, because isn't Facebook and these companies, shouldn't they be regulated no different than the Wall Street Journal and Fox? Because really, they dominate advertising. They dominate, you know, eyeballs. And I think that's what you're saying, that there has to be a level playing field for what I would say is the more mature companies or the older school companies that are innovating maybe at the same pace, but they don't yet have an oligopoly, a monopoly like these.
To that point, Congress could remove the liability waiver that these social media companies have. They have a liability waiver for user-generated content because they say they're not media companies. So that is something that Congress could do. But go ahead.
But let me get to something you said, Robert, and that is about price and quality. Yeah, we're seeing great stuff there. What we're not seeing, we're seeing price and quality, but what about privacy and security? I don't think the things on the books today even come close to addressing that.
Well, that's why I'm a supporter of blockchain protocol. I think it's going to proliferate a lot faster than the market.
And we're anxious to see that. But in the meantime, what are the standards by which consumers can go into the marketplace and make choices about products around privacy and security? And there aren't, and which is what that's caused us to innovate as well. So what we're doing is we have developed a whole series of tests and protocols so that consumers can actually make a choice about which peer-to-payment app is going to be the safest for them. And that's exactly what we did. And guess what? As soon as we started testing and creating these standards, companies started competing against them and saying, we want to be number one. We want to have the best smart TV that protects your privacy. Right. So there are ways to incentivize. It's not all just regulation.
But the problem is that you touch on is that there's all the power is in a few hands. You talk about millennials leaving Facebook. Well, they're using Instagram, which Facebook owns.
Correct.
I never understood why that was allowed to happen. Again, these nerd robber barons who are controlling all of our information and tracking everything that we do.
Well, I think what all of these companies are really excelling at, in addition to delighting us, is being consumer trust busters. I mean, consumer trust right now is at an all-time low.
Marta, great to see you. Tellado. Did I say it right?
You did indeed.
Okay, great. That was very important to me. Marta, great to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.